but logistics-wise, there are bathrooms out the door, down the hall to the left, and then back around, and we have signs. But get that. So welcome to TeachTech. I'm Annie, as Caitlin and Sonia introduced me. I'm the president of Codehaven.
And I'm Claire, as they said, I'm one of our curriculum directors.
And we're super happy to have you all here. We have a brief introduction for who we are as an organization and our plans for the day before we launch into the bulk of our materials. So first, in case you hadn't heard of Codehaven before this event, we're a Yale student group that teaches computer science, introductory computer science and coding lessons to New Haven middle school students. We were founded last year and then got some Google funding and expanded to a couple of schools. And now, as of fall 2017, this semester, we have 35 mentors teaching over 120 students in 4 different local schools. And those lessons are for an hour a week, and we use MIT App Inventor as our curriculum. We'll talk about that later if you don't know what that is. And then one thing of note is that when we started in fall 2016, we started in one special Fairhaven classroom with a teacher named Dave Wagner, who's here and he'll say.
All right, so before we move on into any of our plans for today, we'll introduce our team to you very briefly. As we said, this is Annie, our president. Dennis is here with the camera. We also have Ellis, who has been so lovingly welcoming you today. I'm Claire, as we know. Caitlin and Sonia are also here with us. We've got Omid, who is my co-curriculum director, Shu, and Sonia, as we introduced, and then also Amanda is with Dennis. So thank you all for being here. Next, we'll move into a little bit about Codehaven to introduce you to who we are as a group. Our mission is to inclusively increase access to computer science among middle school students, regardless of their previous interest. So that means that we don't select for students with a previous interest in computer science in our program. In fact, we target classrooms where participation is mandatory so that we can reach students not only who may be predisposed towards computer science with an interest in math or technology, but also so that we can reach students who may not have any previous interest in STEM, and so that we can make that difference for them and develop that interest by introducing them to computer science. And then, as I said, we also have a focus on inclusion. So this emphasis on reaching all of the kids we can, regardless of previous interests, also has to do with having no bias in the students that are part of our program and helps us to foster diversity in this field, which is very important to us. And to show you the manifestation of this mission on our thousands of screens here, we have a video about Codehaven's work so far and what we have become.
Oh. I was just watching our screen. I was like, what screen?
So, I say that with a twinkle in my eye, but still, right?
And now we're to the video.
This is interesting. Yeah, I love the setup. Mine's all you know, it's not.
We're back.
I had a string of
This was a video from last spring.
Oh my gosh.
Typical feedback.
So now that we have given you a little bit more of a specific sense for who Codehaven is and what we do, we'd like to hear a little bit from David Weinreb, who, as we said, was one of the first teachers to be, actually the very first teacher to be partnered with Codehaven, and we'll hear a little bit about his class and his experience with us.
So my name is David Weinreb. I'm a 6th grade bilingual teacher in New Haven at the Fairhaven School. I'm thrilled and impressed that everyone is here on what seems to be a fairly snowy day. I served as the pilot teacher for Codehaven last fall. With no previous computer science experience. I had not done any coding computer science in middle school or high school or college. I had zero training, but a lot of knowledge around understanding that this is probably an area of access and opportunity that I should be hooking my students into. Last fall was a semester full of lots of feedback loops and learning and figuring out what's going to work best for my students. Many of you have probably seen my students before because their photos are all over the Codehaven website. I serve a group of students who are all Spanish-speaking newcomers who have all arrived in the past 3 years from Spanish-speaking places. So not only were we learning computer language, but we were also using this as a language learning tool to be sort of diving deep into a very particular corner of English literacy. And I have a lot of theories around sort of like language literacy and digital literacy and how those things can intersect and intertwine. But I could sing the praises of Codehaven all day long, and I have been for the past year and a half. But what's more important to me is acknowledging that students like mine, and perhaps students that we're all serving, everyone's in need of access and opportunity. And the fact, and what we need to make sure that we're all doing is not just providing our students like computer courses at a high school level, which is probably clear to everyone here. We need to be able to provide our students with early access to legit, complicated, important material at an early stage, so that way when they're getting into the high school and college arenas, they can play in a serious way. So I'm thrilled that you're all here. I'm amazed that TeachTech exists after a year and change of this organization existing. And if people want to know about what it looks like to start teaching computer science in your classroom when you have no idea what's going on, I'm happy to speak to folks. I'll be here all day. Thank you.
Could I just offer an unsolicited compliment? Some of us, like little scientists, were privileged to sit in on your classes. We saw the Yale students. It was an extraordinary thing. And if I'm not mistaken, on the day that I happened to be there, I think you used in Spanish a story about the 3 little pigs on the code. Was that correct? Was it the 3 little pigs?
Yes.
And it totally blew me away. And really, truly, congratulations.
Thank you.
Cool. So now, thanks so much, Dave. We'll speak a bit about why we created TeachTech. So we're by no means professional educators, and we're not here to tell you how to teach at all. But every semester, we do get interest emails from teachers who are saying, like, I want to bring coding to my classroom, how do I start? And then either the schools are too far away, or logistically we just can't handle it, or we just don't have the manpower to expand to that many schools. And we still wanted to help teach coding. So we want to bring computer science lessons to every classroom we possibly can, and we thought the best way to do that would be by helping the teachers, which is why we created this conference. We've created demos, activities, and lesson plans that we want to share with you, and we also have resources and a crash course later for complete beginners to computer science.
So in terms of our goals for today, we recognize that there's a wide range of identities within computer science education in this room, so we're hoping to serve all of you in different ways. So if you are a complete beginner in this field, we're hoping that you come away with a sense of what K-8 computer science education looks like, and hopefully some concrete things that you can do to bring computer science to your classroom and introduce that to your students. For those who have a little bit of experience with this, we're hoping to bring to you knowledge of a new tool or technology for teaching that, perhaps some concrete demonstrations and activities you can use, as Amy said, and then resources and a concrete plan for where to go from here in terms of bringing CS to your classroom in a more strong and sustainable way. And finally, for everyone, we are conscious of developing connections with fellow educators who are also interested in bringing computer science to their students. So those are our hopes for you today.
Great, so I'll give a brief rundown of the schedule before we get started with the first thing. We'll start with an opening keynote from Nathaniel Granard, who'll tell you why you should teach computer science before you spend the whole day learning how to do so. And then we'll present the coding fundamentals that we teach and how we teach them, and with some demos, and you'll have to dance a bit. And then after that, we'll split into smaller groups for Code.org, App Inventor, and Scratch, so that you can have some hands-on practice with these technologies, and we'll kind of also go over the logistics of what we've learned trying to teach using these programs. With also an unplugged activities section, which we'll talk about later. After that, we'll have lunch from Salsa Fresca, and there will be signs with interests and like kind of demographics of like what students you might teach, so you'll be able to connect with the people who might be trying to do the same thing in schools that you are. And then after that, we'll have case studies from CS educators who will talk about the concrete things that they did to implement CS in whichever educational situation. And then a question and answer opportunity, so if you can ask specific questions to those speakers there. And finally, we'll end with a closing keynote about diversity and inclusion in computer science, which is something we care deeply about. And ask you for a survey of the day, and end by raffling away some prizes from our sponsors. Any questions? Perfect. Well then, we'll get started with the panel. I think Caitlin and Sonia will be giving you an introduction. Thank you.